Broncos, welcome back to another fitness class. My name's Nicole. I'm a group fitness instructor at Campus Rec, and today I'm going to be bringing you a yoga class, hopefully to get our bodies moving, stepping away from work or school for a little bit. A few props you may need today are a blanket or a towel, whatever you have on hand, and a block or a pillow. I'm just going to be using this pillow here, and yeah. So grabbing all our materials, bringing them close. If you have a mat or a towel, or if you're just doing it on your carpet, wherever is totally fine. But we're just gonna jump right into it, and so we're gonna start in a seated position today. So bringing our legs in close, sitting up nice and tall, opening up our chests and closing our eyes. We're gonna start doing some big belly breathing. Just taking deep inhales, breathing all of our air in. Exhale, breathing all of our air out. Repeating this a few times, keeping our shoulders down and away from our ears, keeping our spines nice and tall. Starting to set an intention for our practice today, being aware of our bodies, maybe challenging ourselves a little bit more today, or just doing what's comfortable, listening to our bodies and what feels good. Taking a few more deep breaths here, bringing our hands to a heart center this time. Taking 2 more deep breaths. And 1 more. Dropping our hands by our sides. We're going to inhale, lifting our hands up overhead. And exhale, fanning our arms nice and wide back down to our sides. Going through that 2 more times. Inhale, really reaching high towards the sky. And exhale, lowering our arms, fanning them nice and wide, being aware of our shoulders. Going through that 1 more time. Inhale. And exhale back down. Now bringing our hands up, inhaling nice and high towards the sky, interlacing our fingers together. And this time, exhale, rounding our backs out, bringing ourselves forward. And then inhale, back up high towards the sky. Exhale, rounding ourselves forward again as we hinge at the hips. Inhale, back up. And exhale 1 more time. Bringing ourselves forwards. Inhale, back up towards the sky. And this time, exhale, bending to our left. Holding here for a few more breaths at the end of our exhale. Keeping our chest open, feeling that stretch down our side. And keeping our knees drawn towards our mat. We can keep our eyes closed through our practice if we like. Holding here for 1 more deep breath. Inhale, back to center. And exhale, bending to the right. After we release all of our air, holding here for a few more breaths. Again, keeping our knees drawn towards the floor, feeling that stretch down our sides. Inhale, back up towards the center. And exhale, releasing our arms by our sides. Taking our hands and placing them on our knees, rolling our shoulders down and back, getting a nice tall spine, opening up our chest. We're gonna go through some chest openers. So we're gonna inhale, opening up our chest, drawing our shoulders down and away from our ears. And exhale, rounding out our backs, tucking our chin slightly. Going through that again. Inhale, lifting our chin and our chest. And exhale, rounding out our backs, tucking our chins. Inhale 1 more time, opening up our hearts and our chest nice and wide. Exhale, rounding out our backs and tucking our chins. Coming back to normal breathing, bringing it to center. Taking our hands by our sides, we're going to bring our left arm up nice and tall towards our side, bringing our right arm out towards the side, leaning into it. If we would like a little bit more of a stretch here, we can take our arm down towards the mat, or we can grab our pillow or our blanket, whatever is comfortable for us, using it for a little bit of cushion and coming into a deeper side stretch. Holding here for a few breaths. Again, whatever is comfortable for us. Keeping our gaze slightly up, keeping our chest open. Keeping our knees drawn towards the mat. Taking one more deep breath in. Exhaling it out. And coming back to our center. This time taking our right arm up overhand, dropping our left hand out by our side. If this is good for us, we can stay here, or again, we can drop down lower. Holding here for a few more breaths. Evening it out on this side, feeling that stretch. Keeping our gaze up, keeping our chest open. And holding here for a few breaths. Feeling that stretch deepen with every exhale that we take and every inhale. Taking one more deep inhale in. Exhale all of our air out. And bringing it back to center. Rolling our shoulders down and back just a few more times. This time taking our hands, walking ourselves forward into a forward fold, hinging at our hips, dropping our head down towards the ground, and just breathing here for a few moments. Really focusing on our breath, focusing on our bodies. Taking 2 more deep breaths in and out. Feeling that stretch down our lower back and in our hips. Taking our hands back in after our last breath, walking them back up, and then slowly turning over into a tabletop position. Coming into our tabletop here, we want to make sure that our wrists and our hands are stacked underneath of our shoulders, our knees are underneath our hips, and everything is shoulder width and hip width apart. Going here, we're going to go through some cat-cows. So we're going to inhale, lifting our head and our hips up towards the sky. Exhale, rounding out our backs, pressing through our palms, tucking our chins in. Then inhale our head and our hips towards the sky for cow. Exhale, rounding out our backs for cat. Going through this a few more times. Lengthening our breath. Feeling a deeper stretch with every breath that we take. Going through one more time. Coming back to our center, we're going to bring our knees to the widest parts of our mats or our towel, whatever we're on, bringing our big toes together and sinking back into our child's pose. Just taking a few moments here and resting our foreheads on the ground. We can massage our foreheads back and forth by just rocking them and focusing on our breath. Coming back up once we're done with our breaths, pushing back up into our tabletop position. From here, we're going to curl our toes under our heels, pressing back into a downward facing dog. Coming up, bringing our hips high towards the sky, dropping our head between our arms, keeping a slight bend in our knees, and pressing through our palms, feeling a nice stretch, and then slowly lowering our heels down towards the ground. Feeling a stretch here, we can start walking out our dog, just bending one knee in nice and slow, and then switching sides. Breathing through this stretch, never holding our breath. Going through a few more times. Coming back to our center when we're done. We're going to bring our hands and our feet closer to each other. So we're going to begin by walking our feet in towards our hands into a deep forward fold. So allowing our bellies to rest on our thighs, giving a slight bend in our knees. We're going to grab onto our elbows and just rock side to side, letting our heads hang and sway with our bodies. Focusing on our breath, letting our bodies become nice and loose. And when we're finished, coming back to our center, letting our hands hang on the ground, and we're going to begin rolling up one vertebrae at a time, nice and slow. Feeling everything stack one at a time, letting our head and our shoulders be the last to lift. Standing nice and tall, drawing our shoulders down and back, keeping our heads drawn towards the sky. We're going to take our hands and take a deep inhale up towards the sky, fanning them here. Exhale, bring our hands through our heart center as we begin to hinge at the hips into our forward fold again. Bending our knees and then slowly rolling up one vertebrae at a time. Coming to the top here, drawing those shoulders down and back, going through our breath one more time. Inhale to our full sun, fanning our arms up. This time as we exhale, fanning our arms wide for a swan dive into our forward fold. Keeping everything nice and down. This time when we come up to our inhale, we're going to fan our arms up for a reverse swan dive to a full sun. And exhale, swan dive into our forward fold. Going through that again, inhale, reverse swan dive to full sun. Exhale, swan diving into our forward fold. One more time, inhale, full sun. Exhale, swan dive into our forward fold. Keeping our hands here, finding our breath, bringing our hands to the mat. We're going to either step or jump back into a plank. So here, we can be on our toes or we can be on our knees. Again, keeping our hands stacked underneath our shoulders. And if we need to drop our knees, we can go ahead and do that as well. Holding here in a plank, breathing just a few breaths, feeling nice and strong. And then slowly press back into our downward facing dog, bending our knees, bringing our bellies closer to our thighs. Holding here just a few breaths, and then roll back into our plank. Bringing our bodies up nice and tall, coming into our plank, holding here just a few seconds, taking a deep inhale in, and exhale, slowly lowering our arms down for chaturanga. Bringing our bellies to the mat. Lowering our feet, we can either press up into an upward facing dog, keeping our thighs off of the mat, or we can keep our hips and our legs drawn towards the ground for cobra. Whatever is comfortable for us. Holding here a few breaths. And then curling our toes under, pressing back into our downward facing dog. Keeping our legs extended here nice and straight, feeling through our legs, through the back of our legs, feeling a stretch. Breathing here a few more moments. Taking our right leg, we're going to inhale it up high towards the sky. And then exhale, swinging it forward into a low lunge, bringing our foot between our hands, and then pressing up into a runner's pose. So keeping our leg straight here, keeping our knee over top of our ankle, drawing our arms, squeezing our shoulder blades together, finding a nice strong pose here, holding for a few breaths, our bellies connected to our thighs. Taking one more deep breath in, and exhale, coming back down to the mat, this time dropping our left knee down towards the mat, flattening out our foot, and bringing our hands towards the inside of our foot, and bringing our foot towards the edge of our mat. Coming into our lizard's pose, we can take our block or our pillow here if we need, dropping our arms down towards the mat, feeling our hips open up in through our leg, holding here for a few breaths. Again, that back knee is down, our foot is flat. Taking one more deep breath in, and exhale, pressing back up. Taking this one more step further, we're going to take our leg that is in front of us, so our right leg, and we're going to press into our leg to the ground, coming into our pigeon's pose. So we want to make our leg straight with our body, pressing our hip back, our left hip back, and coming down either onto our pillow or onto the mat here for our pigeon pose. Holding here just a few breaths. Taking one more deep breath in. Exhale all of our air out. And coming back up into our pose, bringing our low lunge, coming back up into our low lunge. So extending our leg out, bringing our hands on the outsides of our foot. We're going to step back into our downward facing dog. And step or jump into our forward fold. So right here, we're going to go back up, inhaling to our full sun for a reverse swan dive. Exhale, swan dive into our forward fold. Finding our hands on the mat, we're going to jump or step into our plank. Again, finding a nice strong pose here. Bring our belly button towards our spine. And then pressing back into our downward facing dog. Holding here a few breaths, and then rolling into our plank, keeping a nice soft breath, taking a deep inhale here, and exhale, slowly lowering ourselves for chaturanga. Bring our bellies to the mat. We can drop our feet, either pressing up into a cobra or an upward facing dog, whatever is comfortable for us. And holding here for a few breaths. Taking our toes, curling them under our feet, and pressing back into our downward facing dog. Finding our feet and our heels flat with the ground. This time we're going to take our left leg, inhale it up high towards the sky, Exhale, swinging it forward into our low lunge, keeping our hands on the outsides of our feet and coming up into our runner's pose. Bringing our shoulder blades together, keeping our palms facing each other. Our belly button towards our thigh, holding for a few breaths. Taking a deep inhale in. Exhale, lowering back down towards the mat. Taking our hands towards the inside of our foot, dropping our back leg, dropping our knee and our foot towards the ground. Coming into our lizard's pose. Again, we can take that pillow here, or we can come down towards the ground. Dropping our arms, or we can stay up high and walk our hands out towards the sides. Whatever is comfortable for us, listening to our bodies. Holding here for a few breaths, feeling that stretch in our hips, our inner thighs. Taking one more deep breath in. Exhale, pressing up, coming into our pigeon pose, bringing our left leg in front of us, sinking those hips back. If we need a little extra support, we can take our pillow or our block, place it underneath our hip, giving a little bit more cushion. We can stay upright here, or we can come down onto our hands, our arms, whatever's comfortable. Continuing for a few breaths here in our pigeon pose. Feeling a deep stretch. Taking one more deep breath here. Inhale. Exhale, pressing back up into our low lunge. Stepping back into our downward facing dog and walking out our dog here for a few. Feeling a nice stretch. Taking our feet and either jumping or stepping into our forward fold. Hanging out here for a few seconds. We're gonna inhale, fanning our arms wide for a reverse swan dive to full sun. Exhale, fanning our arms into our swan dive to our forward fold. Breathing here, taking our hands towards the mat, stepping or jumping back into our plank. Holding here for a few breaths. Keeping our hips dropped. Again, we can be on our knees if we need. Keeping our wrists underneath our shoulders. And pressing back into our downward facing dog. Rolling into our plank. Keeping our breath nice and steady. Holding here just a few moments. Taking a big inhale in. Exhale, slowly lowering for chaturanga. And inhale, lifting our heads and our chest up for cobra or for upward facing dog. Holding here just a few breaths. Taking our toes, curling them under, pressing back into our downward facing dog. Holding here for a few more breaths. Inhale, lifting up our right leg towards the sky. Exhale, bringing it forward into our low lunge once again. Inhale, lifting up our chest into our runner's pose. Exhale, one more breath up for warrior. I meant for crescent pose. We can bring our hands up over our head. Holding here a few breaths, my mistake. Keeping our knee over top of our ankle, our foot down and back. Holding here for a few more breaths. Taking a big inhale in. And exhale, lowering our hands back down towards the side of our foot. Inhale, stepping back into our downward facing dog. Exhale here. Inhale, lifting our left leg up towards the sky. Exhale, swinging it forward into our low lunge. Inhale for runner's pose. Exhale, up for crescent. Keeping our arms up overhead if we would like. Keeping a nice steady breath. Taking a deep inhale in. And exhale, lowering back down towards the mat. Inhale, stepping back into our downward facing dog. Exhale here. And stepping or jumping forward into our forward fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive to full sun. Exhale, swan diving into our forward fold. Taking our hands here, stepping or jumping back into our plank. Nice and strong here, a few breaths. Pressing back into our downward facing dog. Rolling ourselves back into our plank. Taking a deep inhale here. And exhale, lower for chaturanga. Pressing up into our cobra or our upward facing dog. And this time taking our toes, pressing back into our tabletop. This time bringing our knees to the widest parts of our towel or our mat. Bringing our big toes together and sinking back into our child's pose. Taking a few breaths here. Letting our foreheads drop. Taking one more deep breath in. And then coming up into our tabletop and turning onto our bums. Bringing our feet in front of us. We're going to lay back onto our mats. We're going to go through a few glute bridges to get a little bit of ab work in. So bringing our feet in close to our bums. We're going to inhale, lifting up our hips towards the sky, squeezing our glutes in, pulling our belly buttons in towards our spine. And exhale, lowering our hips back down towards the mat. Inhale, lifting our hips back up towards the sky. Exhale, lowering our hips back down. If we would like a little bit of an added challenge here, we can extend one of our feet out. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, lowering back down, switching feet. Lowering back down. Continuing through this just a few more times. Going through whatever's comfortable for us, whether our feet are extended or not. Going through one more time. And bringing our bodies back down, lowering our feet and our arms towards the mat. We're going to start by taking our right leg in towards our chest. Giving it a nice squeeze, breathing here, a few breaths. Taking our left hand on the outside of our right knee and dropping our right arm towards the floor. We're gonna inhale here and exhale, slightly bring our leg across our body. Inhale back to center. Exhale, seeing if we can take our leg just a little further. Inhale back to center. And exhale one more time, bringing our leg across our body, seeing if we can take it a little bit further. Inhale back to center. And exhale, lowering it back down towards the mat. Switching legs, bring our left leg in towards our chest, giving it a nice squeeze, breathing here for a few moments. Taking our right hand on the outside of our left knee, dropping our left arm down towards the floor. Taking a big inhale in. And exhale, lowering our leg across our body just slightly at first. Inhaling back to center. Exhale, bringing it across our body, seeing if we can take it a little further. Inhale towards the center. And exhale one more time, bringing our leg across our body. Inhale back to center. And exhale, lowering our leg back down towards the mat. And when we're ready, slowly coming up into a seated position. Keeping our eyes closed here, we're going to finish off with a little bit more breathing. Taking our hands wherever they are comfortable, creating a nice tall spine. We're going to inhale through our nose and exhale through our mouth. Inhale, breathing all of our air in through our nose. And exhale through our mouths. Continuing here for a few more breaths. Slowly letting our breath come to a nice and slow pace, just breathing normally. Coming to the end of our practice here. Bring our hands to our heart center. The light in you. Namaste. Thank you all for coming to and joining me in a little yoga flow today. I hope you get a little bit of a stretch in, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.